Tiger fans, Richmond have confirmed today that youngster Josh Smillie does have to have some quad surgery on the back of not being able to start the official pre-season date, which will see him returning after New Year. And before we get stuck into talking about it, I think first and foremost, want to give Josh Smillie a massive shout out. I know he will probably never see this, but we're right behind you, mate. We love what you're doing at the club. We can't wait to see you back out there playing and training. And just know that you've got the Tiger Army's full support. And it's only a minor setback, but we've obviously seen all the work you've been doing with the running sessions in the off-season in your own time. So it's just such a shame, and we can only begin to understand the disappointment you must be feeling. But just know that the Yellow and Black Army are right behind you, mate, and we can't wait to see you back out there. So all the best, Josh. So I'll read through the statement from the club's website first. It's all on there. The reason I wanted to do a video on this, though, is because I'm still seeing a lot of negativity aimed at the club on this, and I think it's really misguided and not well placed. Look, fair call. Last year, fair play. I don't think there was very much transparency at all with how some of the things were handled. This year, this very first example, they've hit this on the head within 24 hours, and they've acted on the actual diagnosis as quick as you possibly could have. And that's probably the points I want to touch on, because I'm seeing some comments flying around that aren't entirely accurate, and I want to just step through the timeline so everyone can be on the same page and understand that this was a quick, proactive decision that's going to be the best for Josh and his future long-term at the Richmond Football Club. But we'll go through the statement. We'll just go through part of the statement, the important parts. Richmond confirms the second-year midfielder Josh Smillie will undergo quad surgery this week, keeping him out of main training group until the new year. The 196cm midfielder had an interrupted debut season with injury issues and has maintained close contact with the club medical staff over the off-season, completing a strong volume of running at intensity along with some kicking progressions. Now, we've obviously had track watchers who have seen Josh in there 3 times a week for the last month and a half, 2 months, doing a power of work, slimmed down, doing his program, smashing it. So that's why it's just so flat for him, I guess, doing all that work. But it was good to see him out there, which sort of ties back into a future point. So just keep a hold of that one. Smiley was set to return to pre-season training with the rest of 1 to 4 year players this week, but was withdrawn as part of the player screening process. Repeat scans as part of the management of his injuries have shown a little healing progress of his quad injury, despite it being classified as minor in nature. The club will now opt for surgery intervention. And then it goes on. Tim Livingston talks a bit about what Josh has been through. But that's probably the crux of it and the most important part. So I guess the first thing we need to address that seems to be a bit of a misconception out there, this isn't a new injury. He hasn't re-injured himself in the off-season. He hasn't rocked up day 1 of pre-season, done a few laps, injured himself and walked off the ground, which I'd seen reported a few places, which was just factually incorrect. This is not a re-injury. So let's just put that straight on the table. The other thing that I think is really important to understand, because the one counter argument I'm seeing a lot of is, well, why didn't we put him in for surgery at the end of the season? Great question, valid question, but here's the reason why. At the end of the season, the players, when they do their exit interviews, also go through a medical check over as well to sort out what they have to have done. And we know this because that's how Tom Sims was found to have that navicular injury that was not otherwise noticed during the last part of the season. So that's how that got picked up, because of the mandatory end-of-year medicals the players do to see what clean-outs and stuff like that. So Smiley would have had an end-of-year medical. He would have had scans. He would have had all the testing that's done. That's all come back clear. The quad was healing as it should be, because the quad injury happened towards the back half of the year, and we know he was rehabbing throughout that phase and almost made it back for VFL, but didn't quite get there. So it was healing as it should, and the scans would have come back and shown that. So on that basis, surgery at the end of the season was never, ever a consideration, never, ever on the table, because there was nothing to ever suggest that it was required. So that's why that didn't happen. So then off-season happens, all the players get their own programs, they're not really allowed any official contact with the club. Now, the only part in this I don't know a lot about is, how does that differ when it comes to the medical side of things? I'm not too sure. But like I said, players get all their programs, we know that. We've seen Josh running 3 times a week at the club for the last month and a bit, and I would hazard a really strong guess that if he was feeling any type of discomfort or pain, that he would have stopped what he was doing and had to report it and go through whatever they had to go through, which didn't happen. Okay, it didn't take place. I don't know if he felt any other discomfort when kicking. I'm not too sure if that even took place. But from a running perspective, he was smashing it, doing really well. We all saw it. Then comes day one of pre-season training. Players rock up. He was taken for some medical screening just to see an update on how it's going. And the scan just shows that it's not healing as well as it should have been healing naturally. So the best way to kind of picture it, let's say at the end of the season when he had his scan for his or end of season meeting, let's say the report showed it was healed a 5 out of 10 as a natural progression. Has his off season, does his running, does whatever, comes back round day one of pre-season. They've done the scan on the first day, so they've wasted no time. And the scan has showed that it's only at a 7 of 10 progression of healing when it should have been a 10 of 10 progression. That's all it is. No one's done anything wrong. No one's been mismanaged. It's just the muscle hasn't healed naturally as it was expected to do. And that can be because of growth. It can be because some players' bodies just heal in different ways. A whole raft of things. But I just think people need to calm down with aiming vitriol and cheap shots at Josh or the club or both, because it's no one's fault. It's got nothing to do with the pre-existing injuries during the year. They were all taken care of. Then he was on the conditioning program and the quad thing happened and it just hasn't progressed in its healing route. It's as simple as that. But the club being proactive, identify it, they're going to do the surgery. And I think it's really important to note as well that surgery for footballers is very, very much a last resort. It's not something that's at the top of the list to do, especially for younger players who are still growing. It's probably even then further down the bottom. So the natural course is always to see if it's going to heal naturally, if that's what the type of injury does. And this particular injury, according to the club and medical staff, was set to heal by itself. Hasn't transpired how they would have hoped, so now they're acting straight away. So that's why they didn't do it at the end of the season, and that's why it's no one's real fault. It's just a real shit situation to happen to the same kid, and we all just want to see him out there. And I get it that all the frustration and angst comes from a place of deep down love that we want to see him playing, but we are ultimately doing what's best for Smiley and best for the club. And doing this little procedure, he'll be back in the new year. Look, some may argue that might mean he's going to miss the first few weeks of the season. Some might argue there's still enough time that he's got to get himself right for round one potentially. We'll have to just wait and see how that part plays out with the rehab side of things post-operation. But I'm sure the club will keep everyone posted on that. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of clear up some of the misconceptions surrounding this because, I've sensed and seen all the frustration over the last couple of days. But to the club's credit, to come out on the front foot, be transparent, be open and being honest, and quick with the communications is exactly what we've been wanting as fans. So we appreciate that first and foremost. And again, Josh, we wish you all the best, mate, with the recovery from the operation. Fingers and toes crossed it all goes well and you're back out there in no time, getting yourself amped up for round one. So let's just hold fire, folks. It'll be okay. And we'll just see what the new year looks like with Josh when he sort of gets into a bit more running and recovery and hopefully some full contact and footy drills in Feb, fingers crossed. But yeah, that's that. Let's sit tight and wait to see what happens in the new year.